This session, let's welcome Audrey Williams from Hyatt Global.
Hold on, Audrey. If everybody will get back in and have a seat, we are almost there. And this is being, all of the main stage have been taped live, and we are going to be pushing them out across social media. So because there's probably going to be more like 80 people instead of 500 in here, clap really loud so it sounds like more people. And yay! Woohoo! There we go. This is a killer panel. We always learn every year different things. We're super excited. We are going to announce it because I don't want to make a decision after a little sleep. But we think we're having close it back in Santa Fe, exact same time, Tuesday after Indigenous Day. And we're going to end it at 1 for 3 days in a row so you can tour Los Alamos National Laboratory, Breaking Bad. There's a tour of Breaking Bad. Steve Patrick from the Aspen Institute wants to take people to to Taos and look at the pueblos. So we're going to make it a lot of fun and pack time. I do pack things in, so sorry. Okay, if you don't have drink tickets, drinks are on us, just not if you're driving, but use the raffle tickets on the table. They are gonna use those as drink tickets. So if you want to drink, grab a raffle ticket. And I'm very, very honored to have Audrey Williams-Lee of the Hyatt here. The thing I love about Audrey is I met her right when she got in her role at the Hyatt. And she was with this conference for the last 3 days. She not only runs Hyatt HR globally, but she also runs Hyatt Foundation. And she was here learning like all of us. So thank you, Audrey. And then the panel, we're going to hear from Marianne at McDonald's, which is going to be killer. And then Todd McCracken is going to run a panel. So here we go, Audrey.
I'm glad there's still people here.
No, thank you. I'm really pleased to be able to be here today and just talk with you a little bit about some work we're doing at Hyatt. So as Jamae said, I'm Audrey Williams-Lee, and I lead our corporate HR, talent acquisition, as well as our corporate social responsibility and our philanthropic efforts. And I wanted to be able to share how we are addressing this issue of providing access, looking at equity, providing opportunities, and we're doing this by combining philanthropy, recruiting, and training, and we're targeting a population of individuals that are often invisible when it comes to the workplace and often are not part of how different companies look for hiring candidates for their jobs. And so I want to start by talking a bit about how we operate as a company. It gives you a little bit of how we got to where I'll talk about, is that we really use data and analytics combined with empathy and action to make decisions. So we look at what the data tells us in different parts of the business, and then we apply empathy and action. And the reason this empathy piece and the action piece is important is that for us that leads to care, and care is basically what our purpose is. As a company, we care for people so they can be their best. So for us, that's a really critical element of making sure it shows up in everything that we do. And so as we looked at data from a people planning and workforce planning standpoint, we actually found, we knew this, but we found for sure that there are two really different realities out there. Last week, our CEO was leading a conversation with the Fortune CEO Initiatives, and these are company leaders who are focused on helping to solve social issues. And he was talking with them about programs for bringing young people into the workforce, which is where Hyatt is focused. And he talked about our signature philanthropic cause, which we call Rise High. And Jermaine mentioned that earlier during the discussion for the awards. But Rise High for us is really a way for us to bring sort of that left out population into the workforce. And as we talked about this, one of the things that is also important to understand is that there's this whole fallacy around full employment. Hyatt is headquartered in Chicago, and in 11 of the neighborhoods in the Chicago area, you have unemployment that exceeds 10%. And for young people in those neighborhoods who are between ages 16 and 24, unemployment is 20% or higher. And so there is a lot of opportunity out there for individuals who just don't have access to this. So this issue of young people being out of work and out of the economy is something that we see as a primary driver for the wage gap, the income gap, and the skills gap within our country. And our CEO has talked a lot about this, and he's been a great proponent for what we're doing. And what he says is that having young people out of work and out of school is really the most important issue as a society that we need to address, and that businesses have an important role in making sure that these young people are brought into the workforce and given pathways to be able to gain skills and to be able to build careers. So from our perspective at Hyatt, we're very committed to our communities, which is also what got us to where we are. As a public company, we have over 850 properties in 60 countries. We're very global, and we employ almost 120,000 employees around the world. And we have a number of roles that are available from an entry-level perspective that we can use to bring young people into our workforce, and that's what we're focusing on. As I mentioned, our purpose is grounded in care, and that care includes not only our colleagues, but our guests and also our communities. So we look for ways to bring our community into the fold. And in many of our communities where you have neighborhoods and populations that are underserved, they've traditionally been left out of the workforce. And this is because they don't have perhaps the traditional credentials around a college degree, a certificate, or related work experience. And our speaker, one of our speakers on the first day spoke about talent being spread equally, but opportunity not. And we strongly believe that we need to widen the funnel for talent and bring in individuals who, through circumstances, don't have the opportunity to be part of the workforce the way things currently are. And then when we look globally, youth unemployment is a huge issue. There are 71 million young people who are out of work. And this is something that we see in our sector, being in travel and tourism, that we could really make a difference in by bringing young people into jobs because we have entry-level jobs. But the fact of the matter is that we need these young people as much as they need us. They need jobs, we need workers. So it's something that can help our communities, but it's also very beneficial to us from an organizational perspective. So let me talk a little bit about what we did with our program. And this is a bit about our strategy. So we knew there was a very real need in our communities, and we wanted to figure out how to address that. So we started this by figuring out how could we have more impact in our communities. We had been supporting different educational initiatives, but we just weren't seeing the kind of community building that we'd like to see, and decided to really focus on our role in being able to help with community building. And so that was a shift for us. Rather than just giving money to programs, what could we do more directly that would actually impact organizations and impact our communities? And so as we put together our program, we spent a lot of time trying to understand exactly what needed to be done. And we started by asking ourselves this question of saying, how might Hyatt address youth unemployment globally and identify a diverse pipeline of talent to help us grow our business? So we applied design thinking principles, which is something we use quite a bit at our organization, and we started by going out and doing interviews with global community-based organizations that were actually working with the population that we're interested in hiring. And we talked to individuals and organizations that were working in Vietnam, the US, South Africa, India, and we were able to get a really good view of, one, what would it take to make sure that we could bring these individuals into our organization successfully and help our hotels support them in being successful in a job? We also want to understand the characteristics that would be required for hiring into entry-level jobs at the most basic level possible. And so going through this process, something that stuck with us was from one of our CBOs, and the gentleman said, and I want to read this quote, that the qualities that allow for street survival are not always consistent with what will enable success on a job. So we find as we're hiring for our program that we're really needing to not only build skills, but in some cases shift mindsets and shift thinking to what it takes to be successful on the job compared to perhaps what some of our young people have been dealing with previously. So going through the interviews and doing additional research gave us a very realistic view of what to expect. And we were able to put our program together working with Grads of Life. We ran a design lab for 2 days to really understand all the components and to come up with a strategy and the approach that you see before you. And so our approach is really grounded in being able to make sure that we're prioritizing which hotels are best for the youth that we're bringing in. We spent a lot of time integrating with our community-based partners, but then also making sure we stay focused on this population, because we recognize that there are huge needs out there for employment that go beyond opportunity youth, but we really do believe for us that this is a population that makes a big difference. So in terms of where we are today, you see our goal of hiring 10,000 opportunity youth, but we also expect that we're going to impact many others just by providing support and being engaged in our communities. We also made another shift to make sure we had the right org structure to support this. So we combined the community engagement parts of CSR with HR. And so we have one team that is focused on the same goals, same outcomes, and that's really helped us with what we do for Rise High, but also with other CSR efforts that we're engaged in as well. And so as we launched last year, I'm pleased to say that to date, we've been able to hire almost 1,300 young people into the program. And one of our goals is to have our retention rate be equal to about what we have for existing entry-level roles. And it's early, but so far it's on track there. And we also sort of developed, kind of what we call our ecosystem of support. So the funding that comes from our corporation, but also from our foundation, the pipeline of talent from our CBOs. We use technology to help with assessments and to help us go through the interview process. And then we make sure that we have partners that are familiar with wraparound services so that we're able to provide support, because sometimes skills as basic as getting to work on time are a challenge. And that's difficult because these young people have sometimes very complicated living arrangements, or they have uneven access to transportation, and that makes a huge difference. And so we're early in the process, but we're focused on retention, we're focused on employment persistence and teaching these young people how to work. Our view is that if they leave Hyatt but get another job, we're still successful, because that shows us they figure out how to survive in the world of work. So it's something that works for us, it's what we need, it's something that helps our community. It's a really important program to us, and we think it's going to impact current and future generations in our communities. And it also is really inspiring to be able to watch these young adults come into the workforce, get acclimated, and then be able to help them achieve success. So that's what I wanted to share. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Audrey Williams. And now a warm welcome for Marianne Merola and Clemy Garza of McDonald's.
Thank you, everybody. So Clemy and myself, we would like to talk about what McDonald's is doing to close the gap. So my name is Marianne Merola. I work at McDonald's headquarters, and in just a minute, I'm going to turn it over to Clemy Garza, who owns 12 restaurants in this area. But let me first tell you a little bit about the overall strategy of what we're doing. So McDonald's rolled out an education strategy, which we call Archways to Opportunity. And the goal is to not supply a one-size-fits-all solution, but rather to supply a variety of different education programs for our restaurant employees. We know that our restaurant employees are diverse, their education needs are diverse, so our goal is to provide a lot of different solutions for them. So with Archways to Opportunity, there are 4 major areas. One of them is English as a second language classes, which we call English Under the Arches. We use a hybrid model of both face-to-face and virtual classes. The second component is the Career Online High School, provided by Ed2Go, who's been here at the conference, but it is an online high school diploma program. So for somebody who completes it, you get a high school diploma as well as a career certificate, and McDonald's corporate pays the entire cost so that anybody working in a restaurant who works at least 15 hours a week for at least 90 days, they are eligible to enroll in this program and complete a high school diploma. And since we rolled it out, over 750 McDonald's restaurant employees have gotten a high school diploma, including some who work for Clemy. So then our third component is college tuition assistance. So with the same eligibility criteria that I just mentioned, a McDonald's restaurant part-time employee can get $2,500 each calendar year for college, and they can use it at any accredited college or university, so including local community colleges. We do also have some college partners, including Southern New Hampshire University, but the choice is up to the employee in terms of where they would like to use their college tuition dollars. And then the final component is we provide free educational advising provided by Cal, who's also at the conference. Yay! But yes, the free educational advising is to help fill the need of that adult learner who does not know where to start in terms of the world of higher education. So we provide this to both McDonald's employees and their family members. But enough of me talking about the program. What I'd really like to do is turn it over to Clemy to share some of the success that she has seen. Clemy?
Thank you, Marianne. So I'm here to tell you that Archways to Opportunity changes lives, futures, family legacies, and communities. As an owner-operator, I've seen its impact on my employees. And while I could tell you many stories today, I'm just going to share one, and that's Shaylin's. Shaylin came to our organization in October 2017. She was part of a partnership that we created with the Rio Rancho Public Schools District, a school-to-work partnership. In this program, she earned high school credit for working at McDonald's. She attended the Career Online High School, which, by the way, is open to not just our eligible employees, but their family members. And while she's in that program, the Career Online High School, they pair them with an academic coach who specializes and has a degree in social work or counseling. And their sole job is to get them to graduation. They also graduate, as Marianne said, with a certificate in one of 9 career paths. So she came to us as part of this program. The principal shared with me, that her parents had just been in his office crying because Shaylin had no future. Nothing was going to become of her. She was never going to graduate. She was never going to leave home. She was never going to be able to hold down a job. In other words, I think you would agree, she had no hope and no future. He also shared she was a really good kid, but she was an excruciatingly slow learner. So with that in mind, we placed her in my lowest volume store of Walmart. I prepped and readied my team, and even then, she had a really hard time at the beginning. Her father, the first couple of shifts, had to carry her out because she physically got ill. The school had to create a program to teach her hospitality. So every time she met a teacher or an administrator, she had to smile and say, "Hi, how are you?" to teach her, to help her learn and practice hospitality. Now let's jump ahead 4 months to March. The Walmart's being remodeled and is shut down. I assumed, wrongly, that she was actually going to take time off and would come back when we reopened. You can imagine my shock when I walk into the nearby McDonald's where we had transferred many of our Walmart employees, and there she was, happily greeting customers and taking orders. Okay, fast forward to mid-July. The Walmart is back up and running. They're having a fundraiser for canine officers and dogs. I walk into the Walmart, and guess who's out there with the canine officers and dogs talking to the Walmart customers? None other than Shaylin. She shares with me that she had just gotten back from California, and she had been to California because she had gone to Comic-Con with her friends with the money that she had earned working at McDonald's. Her father had been shopping, and he came and found me. And he started sharing with me the changes in Shaylin while she had been working with us, which was just 8 months at that point. Big burly man, he starts to cry. I start to cry. It's all over. Anyway, they share with me that the family is moving to Washington so that she can go to a famous anime school that's there in Washington. Apparently, she's very talented. Fast forward to September. I'm in the conference room of the high school waiting for my school-to-work students to come and join me. I hear the principal's voice coming down the hall, and somebody is really joking with him, razzing him, having a good time. You could have picked my jaw up off the floor when the principal walks into the room, and there right next to him is Shaylin. The comedian was Shaylin. In October 2018, Shaylin was one of the first 2 graduates from the School to Work Career Online High School program to graduate. The next time I saw that principal, he shared with me that Shaylin's family decided at the very last minute not to move to Washington. Now I know you're asking, what happened to Shaylin? Well, as you know, she graduated. Well, the second part of that is she moved to Washington. She is going to that school, that anime school. She is holding a job while she's working at McDonald's, and she's using tuition assistance to help her pursue her dreams and passions. In less than 1 year, I watched Shaylin transform from a frightened, shy, contracted ghost of a person that everybody would agree had no hope and no future. In less than that year, she became a confident, empowered, joy-filled, and somewhat headstrong young woman who's actively pursuing her dreams and building her future. Archways to Opportunity changed her life. I think you would agree it changed her future, her career opportunities, and now her family legacy because of the fact that she's a graduate and has that additional secondary learning. Archways to Opportunity is actually changing my community and our communities, one student, one employee at a time. Thank you.
Feel like it's that end of the Ferris Bueller movie when he comes back and he's like, "You're still here?" Thank you for still being here. Yeah, that's right. Give yourselves a round of applause for that. You are still here. You are in the saddle. This is actually the favorite part of my day because I get to introduce Todd Hand. And Todd Hand is the president of Knowledge Leaders. But more than that, Todd, believe it or not, hired me in my very first job out of college over 20 years ago. So basically, this is all coming full circle in that I'm now introducing the person who literally was instrumental in kicking off my career. And not much has changed except for the fact that he now uses readers. With that, Todd Hand.
Good afternoon. I'm Todd Hand. Do we have any Bruce Springsteen fans in the audience? We don't have any more than Nat in the audience? Well, I listened to an interview years ago where Bruce was talking about the early days in Asbury Park, and when their band would perform at a bar, and he said there were only like 4 people in the bar. And he and the band made a pact. Just because there were 4 people in the bar, they were gonna give those 4 people a hell of a show. So that is our commitment to you here now, all right? So we will be discussing the shifts in hiring in regards to opportunity, equity, and access. But before we hear from our panelists, I want to frame the problem that is before us all. For years, we have heard the dire warnings of the growing labor shortage in key industries, from airplane pilots to airplane mechanics, from welders to IT workers. Very soon, the healthcare industry will be hit particularly hard. Penn Foster predicts that by 2026, 8% of the total labor force will be mid-skill healthcare, which will create massive shortages of pharmacy technicians, certified nursing assistants, and medical assistants. Healthcare providers will face enormous challenges in filling these roles. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a growing national crisis that will affect all of us. How we can address this problem is the focus of this conversation. So let's now hear from our panelists. I'll now ask each to introduce themselves with where they are and how they're addressing this problem, and answering, at the end, the most important question in New Mexico: red or green? Nicole? Maybe that deserves a little bit of a, so it's red chili or green chili?
Gotcha.
And we talk about what unites us and what brings us together. This is a question that talks about our division, okay? And what pits one group against the other. So, Nicole?
Great, thanks. Hi, I'm Nicole Trimble. I lead talent Rewire at FSG, and we work with employers in helping them rewire their talent systems with a focus on frontline and low-income workers, making investments in them so that they can meet the changing demographics and meet changing automation. We have dozens of employers who've been through, we have these labs called innovation labs. I think everybody has an innovation lab now. And I'm excited to tell you some of their stories. This was a trick, like sneak up question. I'm gonna say green, although I think I like them both equally.
Great.
Do you have one?
I'm Eric Bing, and I'm the CEO of the College of Healthcare Professions. We're the largest provider of allied health graduates in the state of Texas, and I was glad to hear all Todd's stats there. Sounds like it's good news for us. We have about 6,000 employers that we work with throughout Texas, and so we do a lot of work with them, and there's a lot of shift happening there that we'll talk about in a little bit. The other piece is almost all of our students are from disadvantaged communities, and when you look at the fact that half of them are 25 or older, 56% are Hispanic, 23% are African American. The average wage when they come to us is $9,000 to $15,000. 17% parents have never made it through middle school, 50% never through high school. We're dealing with a complicated adult population that takes a different look. So that's what we're up to.
Hello, my name is Michael Ellison. I'm the CEO and founder of CodePath. And CodePath is an ed tech nonprofit. We're focused on increasing diversity in tech. And we're doing that by systemically trying to change CS education nationally across colleges and universities, not just curriculum, but then also how it's taught. At 49 colleges and universities, CodePath creates the curriculum with major technology companies. We train professors or students a semester in advance. And then we also do the grading and the student support, the majority of the student experience via an online and in-person management across all those courses. So for the first time, courses at Howard or Purdue or at Merritt College in Oakland all have the same consistent curriculum, and then we leverage that in order to work with major technology companies so that they hire students that previously were invisible to them. We also have been one of the top technical training organizations in Silicon Valley for senior engineers for most of the past 6 years. We created Airbnb's first ever engineer onboarding program. We actually redesigned Walmart's global engineer onboarding program for 30,000 engineers. We still run internship programs for Facebook, so have taught thousands of engineers specialized in the cutting edge technologies, which then they are trying to convince colleges and universities to teach.
So while I have 12 McDonald's restaurants and I probably use the traditional paths, there are some things that I think we're doing that's very different and would certainly be part of this shift, in that we formed collaborations with our community colleges, different high schools, school districts, community centers like several shelter centers, and the AARP to hire, to recruit for educational purposes, but also for the other purposes, because, as actually the AARP mentioned, there are a lot of people who may not necessarily be looking for full-time work, but they are an incredible labor resource, and they add an incredible texture to your employee body when you have youngsters who may not have that benefit at home. We have an entire cultural generation, multi-generational, environmental McFamily. And so right now, a lot of our employees are actually coming through these collaborations and less through my traditional McDonald's hiring tools.
So hi, Marianne Merola. You heard me talk about Archways to Opportunity. I guess the only thing I would add, from what I said earlier is, I'm happy to talk to any fellow employers about, education programs and putting together an education strategy. I think it's something that as you heard from Clemy's, just one example, it's something where there's so many tangible rewards. So happy to discuss with anybody about, how to actually get an education strategy together and some of the details and logistics of how we do it.
And something I just might mention is that she was the technical genius that helped us create these collaborations, because many of them was the first of their kinds in the United States.
Great. Hi, everybody. I'm Elyse Rosenblum. I'm the founder and principal of Grads of Life. At Grads of Life, we work with employers to get them thinking differently about talent, and in particular to get them thinking about opportunity youth as a viable source of talent. We also work closely with employers to help them build inclusive talent strategies and support implementation of those strategies. So companies like Hyatt, you heard from Audrey, we've worked with McDonald's, we work with a lot of companies around the country. And we think a lot about how to take that in-depth work with companies and build products and tools to help employers at big scale be able to adopt those same kind of changes. So we can talk more about that later.
I want to start with Michael because I think you've got an appointment that you've got to run around 5 o'clock, right?
Yeah,
so let's
have a flight.
Let's get some value while you're here. Is it true that 80% of underserved minorities who enter the computer science curriculum don't actually get a degree?
So there is massive attrition across colleges and universities nationwide for underrepresented minorities, or even don't even talk about underrepresented minorities, just talk about, I'm from a low-income background. You're not likely to get out of high school and go to a competitive college or university, and you're definitely not likely to persist in computer science. The introductory computer science programs are, I would say, more likely to filter you out versus filter you in. They assume that you have prior programming knowledge and that maybe you have attended CS in high school. And the nationwide shortage of CS professors means that there just aren't enough teachers to support students that aren't already very prepared. If you're visiting different HBCUs or HSIs, you'll see that oftentimes there'll be hundreds of students who are freshmen, and you'll see maybe a dozen or less students that are seniors. So it's that and even worse across a lot of different schools with high minority populations.
So drill down into what CodePath is doing to address that.
So we believe in creating multi-year, free, personalized pathways for students so that we can meet them where they are. And we've realized that we have to actually diagnose different schools, the different challenges they have, and then also the different segments of the populations in those schools. Then our tool is to build a different curriculum that optimizes for a different population. So we may have a collection of community colleges where we're focused on building a multi-course series that will actually bridge gaps with their existing CS program. And then a CS program which maybe it has more of those gaps filled in. We second will also have curriculum that bridges the gap between CS programs and industry. You can graduate from a top CS program right now, and you won't know how to build web applications, you won't know how to build mobile apps, you won't know enough about cybersecurity to be able to get a job. So, and this is, I'm talking about top schools. So when you're looking at schools that aren't top schools with professors who have worked in industry, you also need to build more courses. We have 6 courses right now. We need to build another 20 plus courses in order to fill the gaps that we see on college courses, college campuses. And then we separately have courses that you take before your first CS course, your freshman year, to make you more likely to select computer science and make you able to persist freshman and sophomore year and beyond.
This next question is for everyone, so let's start at Nicole and then go around the table. What mindset shifts and practice shifts are you seeing leading to investments in the front line?
Yeah, the heart of what we do is about mindset shifts. We believe, and I believe, that you can change all the policies, practices, resource flows in the world, but if people in the organization don't have a mindset about who talent is and what talent looks like, it's all for naught. And if there isn't a mindset in the organization that everybody belongs, you can have the best benefits, the best training pathways, it's not going to work. So one of the things that we do and where we're seeing great mindset shifts is like Audrey mentioned, using user-centered design. So we bring opportunity youth, formerly incarcerated folks who've been homeless, in as consultants to the companies to talk about what they would need in order to be attracted, retained, and advanced. So your story would be, that's exactly, what do you need in order to be successful here? And we're seeing those companies shift their mind, like, this person is such a valuable asset. When we do that, lots of job offers are being made to people who would have never had a chance, never had a chance. So a big part of the mindset shift is really the human-to-human connection about who's valuable and who's worthy of investment at the organization.
So for us, there's really been 2 shifts. One is with the employer and the other's been within how we educate. And I'll start and we'll come back around to it. I'll talk some more on the employer. But tying to what you're saying so we've been around for 31 years. We were originally in the internal training schools for part of the Texas Medical Center. And so there's always been a fact of training well. But the thing that we realized about 5 years ago, and we've always had good outcomes, but that with our students, with their crazy complicated lives, and you're dealing with food safety and having to work 2 jobs and single moms and all of these pieces, is we really ripped out education the way it's traditionally been done for hundreds of years and looked at it from an adult learner perspective. So what does that mean? It's really 4 pieces. And the first is we took what they're on-ramps, now called on-ramps, from Strata, and love that study. When you look at healthcare, there's certifications. You don't have to worry about all the badging because the certifications are there. We took these 9-month certifications and made them on-ramps by making them people only having to come in 2 days a week. We did flipped classroom so they can keep their jobs, and also they're learning how to use a computer well, which helps them stick and be more successful in their jobs. So in 9 months, you're having people go from, let's say, a medical assistant in Austin, from $12,300 when they get to us, they're making $27,900 plus OT, benefits, and steady hours. And when you're a single mom, having steady, predictable hours is huge in what's happening. Then the next thing we did is we made everything stackable. So 100% of that cert bulk transfers into an online associate's completion program that ties to them moving up in management and other pieces. And then all of that bulk transfers into a bachelor's completion program. We totally cut out offering 4-year bachelor's straight because too many of our people have all been told you need a bachelor's. We could not agree more. It's the golden ticket. But what are the chances, if you're living day to day, of really getting through a 4-year program for an adult learner? And the problem is if you start down that path, and we were seeing it heavily, life happens and then they have nothing and they're back in poverty. So by chunking it, we're able to have them earn more as they go up the line, but not lose everything. Then we also injected career readiness from day one in our programs, because the reality is, if your mom's working in, if your parents, one is working in a warehouse, the other was a housekeeper, and nobody's ever gone to college in your family, how would you know the culture or language of a professional setting? So we build all that in from the beginning, plus externships or apprenticeships, but they're not paid in our clinical worlds, so that they are ready and have a lot more versus waiting till the last months. And the last piece is the wraparound services. And wraparound services isn't just if you've got domestic violence, putting them in touch, or a homeless, or food safety. Wraparound services are things like the faculty calling somebody at the 10 o'clock break because they didn't, a student because they didn't show up at class. It is the fact of all of the little things of telling people and understanding that failure is part of growing, using all of Carol Dweck's work, all of these extra pieces that happen that are small. And so wrapping all of that together, what's happened is we're having extraordinarily high graduation rates, mid-70s, when you look at it across the board, and for these populations. So the shift is think about their life. We never mess with accountability or them pushing somebody through so they're successful in their career. But the point on it is if you change how you think about it and shift it, we can have extraordinarily successful people out of these communities.
I'll try to keep kind of short since I talked a lot already, but one of the biggest shifts that we've had is about 4 years ago, we were trying to influence tech diversity by getting ourselves added on to hiring panels. So when our alumni would go through technical interviewing, we would try to be part of the review committee, and then we try to give companies additional information from our courses. And we say, no, you're making a mistake. This person's really good, and here's hundreds of hours of data. So that's what we were trying to do, and we were able to actually reverse hiring decisions at major technology companies. And then we also went down a path of trying to change their interviewing process. We're like, you're doing it wrong. You have this false positive, false negative rate. We need to fix this. And we realized that that actually ended up not moving the needle. It was a new argument with new engineering managers, new interviewing panels, and it didn't translate across companies. So instead, we actually changed it to heavily investing in students and over-preparing them for the standard technical interview. Instead of trying to change employers, we found that it was more scalable for us to prepare students from, think of the technical interview as almost like an SAT, and we can prepare them for that while also making sure that they are proficient in whatever roles they're going to take on. And that ended up allowing us to have really dramatic outcomes. If you're a Black CS student in CodePath, you're 1,400% more likely to work at a top tech company. With the series, we have a series of courses that white men from top 20 CS programs have the same likelihood of getting a technical job as, say, women, unrepresented minority women that are outside the top 50 CS programs. So there are ways that we have kind of evolved our thinking, and then now we're just trying to get as many people as possible into these positions so that they can change culture with a critical mass.
So for all of you, you're here because you believe that education is the true game changer, number one. And this whole summit has been about removing barriers and changing those shifts. Well, a year ago, McDonald's announced $150 million to the Archways to Opportunity program over 5 years. And that was actually born from their research into how they could remove the barriers for our employees to get further educated. And it came down to, excuse me, time, money, and some of the availabilities with regards to geography. And the entire program, which Marianne described, hit students where they were, from no English to no high school diploma or career certificate or any kind of educational program like vocational. They're all covered under that tuition assistance. And then for those that had families that hadn't been part of this, that academic advising for them and their families to allow them to explore all the different opportunities and resources and even ask those hard questions. So to me, that was a tremendous mind shift in my organization, and I can only speak for my organization, but I think it's, Marianne could probably speak to it, but I think it's been through our whole franchise in corporate world, that if you ask me, I honestly believe that the Archways to Opportunity is going to be McDonald's legacy to our employees because of the changes that I've seen. And that was the greatest mind shift that I've seen in over 37 years.
Thank you. Yeah, and so I won't be repetitive from what Clemy said, but I would just say in terms of mind shifts, employers have to do everything they can to put themselves into the shoes of the frontline worker, right? And I know all of us in this room, we know that. And I think sometimes just in the employer world, we just have to remind ourselves of that, to talk to the frontline workers, see what their needs are. You know, for example, when it comes to English as a second language, we don't say, okay, here you go, here's access to an online program, do it on your own time. We learned what works well for us is to have groups of people in different cities together going through it as a cohort. So we found having that teamwork, having that confidence building and doing it together as a group, we found that works well. I know Clemy touched on a little bit with the Career Online High School. What we like about it is it can be done on a tablet or a computer. And so you just need that plus good Wi-Fi. And many of our restaurants have, and most of our restaurants have, a break room for crew that has a training computer on it. So if the person doesn't have a tablet at home or doesn't have Wi-Fi at home, they can often go into the restaurant and do their work there. And of course, some people like Clemy take it above and beyond where they go to a local school and get that partnership going. But I think the key is just finding out what those barriers are, remembering that the traditional student of 20, 30, 50 years ago is a thing of the past. We have to get ourselves into the shoes of people nowadays.
And if I could add just one point, one of the things that we had to do, and we found it out with one of the EUA classes, in that it was a virtual class and none of the participants had a computer. So for Career Online High School and all of our educational programs, we actually financed the purchase of the computer for our students. I mean, we buy a low-cost, not low quality, an HP 4G 1 terabyte laptop, put the software on it, the case, and then take it out $25 out of their paycheck. We found out that many of them didn't have internet, so when I remodeled one of my restaurants that had the capacity, we built a training room that had its own separate network and had the ability to be used for our students to come and study either with their computer or on ours. So it really has been about finding out from the employees what the barriers are and then being flexible enough to figure out what they need and meet that need. That's the only way that you're going to champion them to move further. I think he said last night, we all need somebody to believe in us and to know that we can do it.
So I want to pick up on a couple of things that we've been hearing about and talk about a shift that is for us at Grads of Life really important, which is shifting from working individually with employers to thinking about what are scalable interventions that we can put out into the market to support employers adopting some of these practices. And I think they really relate to a couple of mind shifts that need to happen. So one is on the employer side and really thinking about the important role that the frontline manager plays. We all know research is very clear that a frontline manager is what makes or breaks the experience of entry-level workers, particularly vulnerable entry-level workers like opportunity youth and other overlooked populations. And so getting that feedback from our employers over and over, we're doing this work, we're really excited and committed, but we need more support for our frontline managers. We've built a frontline manager training that's online. It's very state-of-the-art. It's totally chunkable, so frontline managers who are really time constrained can access it as needed. And it really helps drive that shift in perspective of the frontline manager. It actually builds on Nicole's amazing empathy interview concept and really encourages that frontline manager to understand the person they're supervising. The other shift I think that's really important is for the worker themselves, the young adult themselves, to really reframe their life experience and think about a skill or strength that they've developed by virtue of their life experience that is valued in the workplace. And we've created something called the 7-second resume. Jamae showed it at Past Close-Its. It's an awesome asset and curriculum that helps young people kind of reframe and think of themselves from a position of strength, and we're piloting it with some employers to use it at the front end of their screening process so that it filters people in rather than filtering people out.
Yeah, I love that. And let's go around again and share some more tools that you all have seen work at reaching this population. You know, the frontline worker population is what, 5 times greater than, you know, older workers? How are you reaching them?
I mean, I'll start, and I'll actually just talk about something that we've been doing together. Talent Rewire and Grads of Life have collaborated with a bunch of other folks in the field to come up with an articulation or codification of principles and practices around what it means to be a great opportunity employer. And we felt that that was important because there's a lot of people out there now that are talking to employers about how to change their practices to be more inclusive, and it's kind of a messy, it has been a messy space. So we really wanted to bring the group of intermediaries together and say, you know, what does research tell us are the best practices? Get them down clearly in paper, and, you know, very clearly delineate the practices. And Talent Rewire and Grads of Life have created an online tool called the Opportunity Navigator.
.org.
Easy peasy.
.org. And I'm not going to steal all the thunder. I'll let Nicole actually say more about opt-in once it gets around to her. But it's a great resource really for companies to take a hard look at what they're doing and prioritize what else they can do to take action to create a more inclusive talent space.
Do you want to?
But I'll just add, so Opportunity Navigator, just go to it. It's really cool. It's simple. It's elegant. It's great if you're a workforce provider who wants to work with an employer to say, how could you be better? It's great if you're an employer. The other thing that I'll add that is a tool that we're doing, it's back to the empathy interviews. We call them empathy conversations because they should not be just an interview one way now. We've shifted that language. Where we have both labs and now an accelerator. We find that within companies, there are people who are just champions, and they need the courage, the tools, and the support to scale within their companies. So what we do is we have a methodology to help provide that to them so that they can go out. And I'll tell you one story. Kevin Shear, Tyson, working, I kid you not, working out of a janitor's closet, building something called Upward Academy. Can you imagine being a frontline worker at Tyson plant, day in and day out? He loves these people. He's like, they need GED, they need financial literacy, they need citizenship classes, they can do it. He figured out how to leverage WIOA funds to do this, but he said, Nicole, I'm doing this in secret. He said, my love language is all about the opportunity. My CEO's love language is all about the P&L. Can you help me figure out the ROI? So one of the tools that we have is to help those internal entrepreneurs figure out how to speak the love language of their CEOs and their executives and figure out the return on investment of all of these interventions and innovations. That Tyson example, without the WIOA funding, 123% return on investment. Tyson can't get that anywhere else, right? 123% return on investment. They're now scaling it to all 49 of their processing plants in the United States. So that's one, you know, Kevin's a hero, but the tool of helping him figure out how to do that ROI is something that we're happy to help with and we love doing.
So first of all, on our student side, which we call aspiring professionals, and our other catchphrase is for the career of your life, and it's for the career of your life for where you are in your life right then. And whether you have little kids or they've gone off to high school and you've got more time, it can be very different. But on the student side, I would say that if you find them the career of your life, you're going to have extremely high referrals and people coming into you. We're 38% of our students are from referrals. But on the employer side, it comes down to ROI, let's face it. And, you know, again, we've got 6,000 employers we work with. About 1,500 we've got deep relationships where they're on our advisory committees for curriculums and all the other pieces and hiring on a regular basis, clinicals. But what we're really seeing happening is first of all, as Todd was saying, the shortages are not just doctors and nurses anymore. They are quality, certified allied health professionals, and the needs for them are going going through the roof because they're picking up more and more duties that nurses used to do. And so the shortage is there, and these hospitals and clinics and systems have had tremendous turnover that they've just kind of let happen. And all of a sudden, it's really killing them. And first of all, they need additional workforce, not just stealing from the different systems out there. But what we're seeing happen is we're going deeper and deeper on actually a consultative role. We are kind of an extension of that HR department. And I'll give you examples of things that we're doing that are very simple. For example, making sure that our graduates are going in for their clinicals in departments and areas of the system where there's job openings so they can be hired directly. Don't put them in a place where there's not an opening. Put them out there in all of those different places. So those are the types of things that we're doing. We also know all the wage rates for every market in Texas, so we can help them adjust so they don't have turnover. It's all these little things that are happening.
I'm getting the...
Can I just add that 123% was about reduced turnover and advancement? So exactly.
Yeah.
I'm getting the signal that we need to be wrapping up. So before we thank our panelists, Brandon and I will take all unused drink tickets. You can meet us over here. And how about a round of applause for our panelists?
Okay, and I have an announcement. Next year, this panel is all invited back to be main stage opening session, comped registration. I'm serious. Same panel, same moderator, same MC. We'll repeat. Thank you guys for Close It 2019. Let's go celebrate.
Thank you, Jamae. Thank you.
Woo! It was fun. So come back. And thank you, Dave Dillman, the voice of God. Come here, Dave. We want to show him the voice of God. Okay, he's too tired. But Dave Dillman was the voice of God. And thank you to our amazing camera crew. We're going to get to watch all this over again. Nice job. Good job.